About 6 months ago, I started my World of Warcraft journey, specifically on Classic WoW, and fell head over heels in love with the game. So much so that regardless of my consistency of uploads on the game, I've still maintained playing it in the background. And there was always one dungeon that I had heard a lot about, as if it was some sort of mythical creation in the world of Blizzard that I should absolutely experience. And well, ladies and gentlemen, that day has definitely come and gone. It has been upon us and it did not disappoint. Oh my god. You see, when I started my journey all of those months ago, I made a few little, I guess, documentations of my time through some YouTube videos and just kind of sharing some thoughts and feelings, new player discoveries. And one of those discoveries was stumbling across Black Fathom Deeps for the first time, of which quite a few people saw for a channel my size, which was great. And a lot of people left comments to say, hey, if you like this, then you're going to love BRD. And hey, wait till this guy sees BRD. If he thinks he's impressed with this is going to blow his mind. Well, consider my mind well and truly blown, because as of a couple of days ago from the recording of this video, I experienced Blackrock depths for the first time. Now, to many of you veterans that are watching this video, this is not going to seem impressive whatsoever, but just humour me for a second here. Pretend you haven't played the game for 20 years or however long it's been out for. Try and look at this experience through a fresh pair of eyes, because trust me, having flown over this area, seeing Blackrock Mountain hundreds, and I mean even thousands of times in my pointless commutes all the way through to the level that I'm at the moment, which I think is 54, actually being here with your feet on the ground, smelling the charred soil, staring blankly at the lava, wondering how the fuck this has happened. Trust me, this is an experience. The best bit about this whole experience, and I guess what makes it so special for me, is I've done all of this with my brother, who has pretty much started WoW at the same time as me. We said to each other from the very moment we picked up this game, any new experience we have to experience together, and I'm so glad that we went into BRD for the first time together. Because leveling in Classic WoW is a lot more tedious, you know, it's a lot slower, you tend to look forward to things in the future. You think to yourself, okay, when I get to 30, I'm going to do this. When I get to 40, I'm going to do this. From the moment I stepped foot in Elwyn Forest, I knew that every single time I flew over the Searing Gorge or the Burning Steps, I was going to do BRD, and I would just envision all of the different enemies and creatures and loot and everything going on in that dungeon. And honestly, it is beyond my wildest imagination. But what's actually in this dungeon and the way this dungeon is created is beyond everything that I can fathom. It says a lot about the dungeon's design when even the outside of the dungeon itself is really imposing and menacing and just kind of leads to this mystery in your mind. From the moment that you step foot outside of the dungeon, depending on which side you've come in from, you're either greeted by a giant concrete bridge that leads into these cast iron doors, or you're walking yourself up a craggy rock face into the doors, and then regardless of where you come in from, there it is, the core, the center, the spiraling depths of Blackrock depths. It is incredible seeing all the dwarven, I presume the dark iron ancestors holding the chains to this center, this kind of like mantled piece of stone with twists and caves built into it that lead you spiraling down into the beginning of the dungeon, and there is lava and atmosphere and all kinds of crazy things going on. It felt like only moments ago I was flying over the Searing Gorge and the Burning Steps, looking at all of the elite or skulled dragons that were flying around and huge spiders, and now I was here, ready to take on the biggest challenge in my WoW Classic career so far. Now, with the behemoth that is the internet, it is difficult to avoid some sort of spoiler or some sort of interaction or video of BRD, but I did do my best. But seeing some of these areas, these textures, the scenery for myself, other than seeing it in video format through someone else's eyes, was just next level. I really did feel like for the first time in the game, this is where I'm starting to see a lot of level 60s all grouped up in one place. A lot of the parties that I'm getting together for this dungeon are level 60 and, you know, slightly below, it was quite clear that I'm in the upper echelons of the leveling experience now. And honestly, because I've cycled through a couple of different alts but spent most of the time on my druid, it's been a slow burning leveling experience, honestly, but I am so happy with the progress that I've made. I'm so happy that I've stuck with WoW Classic because my god, what an experience. And I have to be totally transparent here. I have attempted this dungeon now at level 53, 54 about 7 or 8 times, and we have wiped every single time to just different things. And that's regardless of whether we've got a 60 tank, 60 DPS, multiple people, you know, above the level of 58. I find that this dungeon, or at least for me, it could just be that I'm just really old, bald, and I'm a noob, but this dungeon is incredibly punishing. There are so many patrols and tight corridors that you can make multiple pulls of different packs by accident. There is just the margin for error here. The margin for error is a lot smaller than it is in a lot of the other dungeons that I've experienced. For example, I've mainly been playing a Resto Druid, so for the most part, you know, a lot of my dungeon experience is kind of sitting back, staring at the health bars, wait until they go down a bit and heal, whereas I find in this dungeon, I'm kind of having to preempt what enemies we're coming across, because let me tell you, some of those fire elementals, the fire guards, dude, they do not mess around. They do so much damage, it's actually insane. In fact, let me tell you something funny. When we first got into this dungeon, my brother was tanking, he's playing a warrior, and we went left. We thought, hey, that must be a fairly simple way to go. I think one of the party members had a key, and, you know, we saw some enemies along a road. Cool, we killed them. They were pretty tough to begin with. And then, my god, in the distance, the biggest golem I think I have ever seen in my entire life. And it was a boss. And I couldn't believe, I think this was the first time I'd seen a boss of this size that wasn't just like a wandering elite enemy. And I remember me and my brother being in Discord, just absolutely going crazy. He's like charging in on a warrior. We start attacking, and then the little cast bar comes up and it says summoning like minions or something. And then one after the other, these minions are just pouring out of this this enemy, this golem, and we're trying to DPS the boss down as fast as possible. There's a pack coming behind us that we haven't cleared out, and it was just so much fun, dude. Like, everyone's just scrambling to try and do as much DPS as possible. And I think with the incentive of the loot really ramping up at this point, it makes for an unreal experience. I have to say, hand on heart, that without other party members guiding us because they've done it before, I wouldn't know where to go. There are so many locations to explore in this dungeon and so many bosses to defeat. It almost feels like a day out. Seriously, if you think you're just going to do this dungeon for an hour, clear it and move on, you're so wrong. I think our average runtime has been about 2 hours to 3 hours. It's insane. And that's bearing in mind that we haven't even cleared it. The furthest we've got each time is to the tavern, which, by the way, is such a cool little area to stop sort of halfway in and do some questing there, where you break the kind of barrels of ale. And I mean, we had the funny story. My brother actually demo shouted by accident and literally like AoE taunted the whole room, and dude, these dwarves were just piling in one after the other. We just got destroyed. What's up, dudes? Post-edit Josh here. After I recorded this initial voiceover, I actually went back in to BRD again and got even further. So if you start to see clips further than the tavern, you'll know why. Otherwise, you're going to be watching this going, what the hell, this guy's saying he only got this far and now he's here. So yeah, just clearing that up. One thing I really liked, which of course is going to go away in time, is the fact that every time I enter this dungeon, because of the scale of it, there's always something new to explore, a different way to go. I mean, at one point, we ended up randomly doing some escort quests where we found this knight that had no armor on, and you kind of guide him out and he gets suited up, and then he's hacking and slashing away at the dwarves and the nasties in there as well with you, and it just feels like this really cool battle sequence. We made a promise to ourselves to try our best to not Google things unless we're absolutely stuck, and it absolutely paid off in so many ways, because there are some fights that we were getting into, like with the Golem Lord, for example, where I'm healing and keeping some distance, that we just got destroyed in, dude. Like, we went to fight the golems, not realizing that the Golem Lord actually runs and aggroes the room, then casts chain lightning, and I just got absolutely annihilated. And just kind of learning these different fights, these different rotations, just enemy tendencies, that sort of thing is really, really cool. Even though I've attempted this dungeon now 6 or 7 times, I still don't even know half the bosses. I'm pretty sure at one point we got to a guy called Incendius, which is like this huge fire elemental in this tiny little room, which was so, so sick. By the way, there are so many areas you can just fall off and plummet to your death. There's like barely any safe spaces, apart from maybe one, which I found, or I got shown, which was in this arena area. This arena that you go to that I think has got multiple chances to spawn different bosses with different mobs and drop different loot. And you've got like bystanders above you like cheering yourself or cheering the enemies on or something. Just a really, really cool kind of addition to something you wouldn't normally see in a dungeon. But regardless of me rambling, one thing was apparently obvious as we were getting further and further into this dungeon, and of course, trying to push further. I'm pretty sure this dungeon's got some ties to Molten Core, or may even be the way into Molten Core. You guys will have to let me know. I will cover as much of my Warcraft experience as I can going forward as I approach level 60. I'm sorry it's taken me such a long time. I cover quite a lot of games on this channel. If you guys have got any thoughts, feelings about BRD, maybe the first time that you experienced it, then let me know. I'd be really, really intrigued to hear them. Like, subscribe, all of that rubbish, and I'll see you in the next one.